I came home to find my 8-year-old heart patient daughter chained to our porch in 95 degrees heat. The HOA president had done it because Emma was outside unsupervised. Emma was turning blue, gasping for air, her weak heart failing. Karen walked away laughing. She didn't know I'm the police chief. Now I'll use every power I have to destroy her. Before watching full story, comment below from where you watching. Also like and subscribe for more stories. The scream that came from my daughter's throat wasn't human. I just pulled into my driveway after a long shift as police chief, exhausted, ready to hug my wife and daughter. But the moment I stepped out of my car, I heard it, a sound of pure terror and agony that made my blood turn to ice. Daddy, Daddy, help me. I ran around the side of the house toward our front porch, and what I saw made my heart stop. My 8-year-old daughter, Emma, my beautiful, fragile daughter with her congenital heart condition, was chained to our porch railing like an animal. A thick metal chain wrapped around her small waist padlocked, securing her to the iron railing. She was on her knees, her face bright red and sweating in the 95 degrees Texas heat. Her lips were turning blue. Her chest was heaving as she struggled to breathe. Her portable heart monitor was beeping frantically, the alarm that meant her heart was in distress. Emma, I sprinted to her, dropping to my knees. Baby, what happened? Who did this to you? Can't breathe? Emma gasped, her little hands clutching her chest. Daddy, it hurts my heart. Her lips were getting bluer. Her eyes were rolling back. She was going into cardiac arrest right in front of me. Hold on, baby. Hold on. I grabbed the chain, tried to break it. Solid steel. I pulled at the padlock tight. I grabbed my radio. This is Chief Martinez. I need an ambulance at my residence now. 8-year-old in cardiac distress and bolt cutters. Someone bring bolt cutters. Emma was crying, gasping, her whole body shaking. Daddy, the mean lady. She said I was bad. She put the chains on me. What mean lady? Who did this? Mrs. Harrison. The HOA lady. Emma's voice was getting weaker. I was just sitting on the porch reading. She said, I needed supervision. Diane Harrison, HOA president. That vindictive, power-hungry monster had chained my daughter to our porch. Stay with me, Emma. Help is coming. I held her face in my hands, trying to keep her conscious. Look at me, baby. Stay awake. Please stay awake. Her eyes fluttered. Her heart monitor's alarm got louder, more urgent. Then she went limp. Emma, no. I started CPR on my daughter, my hands shaking, tears blinding me. Come on, baby. Breathe, breathe. My wife, Jessica, ran out of the house. She'd been in the back bedroom, hadn't heard anything. When she saw Emma chained and unconscious, she screamed, Oh God! Emma! What happened? Call 911 again. Tell them to hurry. I was doing compressions on Emma's tiny chest, counting, breathing for her, begging her to come back. Come on, princess. Come on. Daddy's got you. Don't leave me. My patrol units arrived first. Officers Rodriguez and Chin, my best cops. They had bolt cutters. Rodriguez cut through the chain while I kept doing CPR. The chain fell away, but Emma still wasn't breathing on her own. Chief, let me take over, Chin said gently, but I couldn't stop, couldn't let go of my daughter. The ambulance screamed up to our house. Paramedics took over, but I heard the words that destroyed me. No pulse. Starting advanced life support. They loaded Emma into the ambulance, still doing CPR. Jessica climbed in with her. I stood in my driveway, covered in my daughter's sweat, staring at the chain that had been wrapped around her. And then I saw her, Diane Harrison, standing in her yard across the street watching, actually watching with satisfaction, like she was pleased with what she'd done. Our eyes met across the distance. She smiled, actually smiled. Then she turned and walked into her house like she hadn't just tried to murder my daughter. Something broke inside me. Something dark and absolute and merciless. My name is Robert Martinez. I'm the police chief of Clearwater County. I've spent 25 years in law enforcement putting criminals behind bars, and Diane Harrison had just made herself my next target. She had no idea what was coming. The morning had started normally. Emma had woken up excited because her cardiologist had said she could spend 30 minutes outside each day now. 30 minutes of sunshine, of fresh air, of being like other kids. Emma had been born with hypoplastic left heart syndrome, 3 open heart surgeries by age 6, a pacemaker, daily medications, a heart so weak that even walking too fast could trigger an episode. But she was a fighter. My brave little girl who smiled through every hospital stay, every needle stick, every scary moment. "Can I read on the porch today, Daddy?" she'd asked at breakfast, her eyes bright with hope. "If Mommy's watching you and you promise to come in if you feel tired," I'd said, kissing her forehead. "Promise." I'd left for work at 7 a.m. Emma had been eating her special low-sodium breakfast, chattering about the book she wanted to read. Jessica had been home. She worked from home as a graphic designer so she could care for Emma. But Jessica had gotten an emergency work call. Went to her office in the back of the house for just 10 minutes to handle a client crisis. Emma had gone to the front porch with her book, just sitting in the shade, reading with her heart monitor attached, her medication nearby, completely safe. That's when Diane Harrison struck. According to the neighbor who'd witnessed it, Mrs. Chun, elderly woman who lived next door, Diane had walked across the street at 10 a.m. She marched right up to Emma and started yelling. Mrs. Chin told the police later said children couldn't be outside unsupervised, that it was an HOA violation, that little Emma was a liability to the neighborhood. Emma had tried to explain. "My mommy is inside. I'm just reading. I have my heart monitor. I don't care about your excuses." Diane had shouted. "Rules are rules. Children must be supervised." She pulled out a chain from her bag. She brought it with her, planned this and wrapped it around Emma's waist before the little girl could run. "You'll stay here until your parents learn to follow the rules," Diane had said, padlocking the chain to our porch railing. Emma had started crying. "Please, I can't be outside too long. My heart spoiled children and their fake illnesses." Diane had sneered. "This will teach your parents a lesson about supervision." Then she'd walked away, leaving an 8-year-old heart patient chained in 95 degrees heat. Mrs. Chin had tried to help, but she was elderly, frail, couldn't break the chain. She'd called 911, but Emma had started seizing before help arrived. By the time Jessica heard Emma's screams and ran outside, it was already too late. Emma's heart had gone into failure from the stress and heat, and I'd arrived just in time to watch my daughter die in my arms. Emma was in the ICU on life support. The doctors worked for 3 hours to stabilize her heart. Dr. Patel, her cardiologist who'd been with us since Emma's birth, came out looking devastated. Chief Martinez, Jessica, Emma's heart went into severe failure. The combination of heat, stress, physical restraint, and emotional trauma was too much for her weakened cardiovascular system. "But she's alive?" Jessica asked, her voice breaking. "She's alive, but barely. We've got her on maximum support. The next 24 hours are critical." Dr. Patel's face was grave. "I have to be honest. Even if she survives, the damage to her heart may be permanent. She might need a transplant now." Jessica collapsed in my arms, sobbing. She was just reading a book. Just reading. "How did this happen?" "Diane Harrison chained her to our porch," I said, my voice hollow with shock and rage. "Left her there in the heat. Knew Emma had a heart condition and left her there to die." Dr. Patel's face went white. "Someone deliberately did this to Emma, knowing her condition." "Yes, that's attempted murder," he said quietly. "That's deliberately endangering a medically fragile child." "I know, and I'm going to make sure Diane Harrison pays for every second of Emma's suffering." I left Jessica with Emma and walked out to the hospital parking lot. Called my second in command, Captain Sarah Johnson. "Sarah, I need you to arrest Diane Harrison. Aggravated assault on a child, attempted murder, child endangerment, unlawful restraint, and civil rights violations." "Chief, what happened?" I told her every horrific detail. There was a long silence. Then Sarah's voice tight with controlled fury. "I'll bring her in personally. And Chief, I'll make sure it's by the book. Perfect procedure. No mistakes. She won't slip through on technicalities." "Thank you." Next, I called the district attorney, Michael Torres, friend, colleague, father of 3 himself. Michael, I need you to prosecute Diane Harrison with everything you've got. No plea deals. No reduced charges. Maximum sentence on every count. Done. Robert, I'm so sorry about Emma. We'll get justice for her. Then I did something I'd never done in 25 years of law enforcement. I recused myself from the case. Not because I wasn't competent, but because I wanted every single action, every piece of evidence, every procedure to be absolutely perfect. No defense attorney would be able to claim bias or misconduct. This case would be airtight. Diane Harrison was going to prison and nothing would stop it. Diane Harrison was arrested at 8 p.m. that evening. Captain Johnson led a full tactical team, not because it was necessary, but to send a message. The entire neighborhood watched as police cars surrounded Diane's house. Watched as Sarah read her rights. Watched as Diane was handcuffed and led away. According to Sarah's body cam footage, which I reviewed later, Diane was indignant, not remorseful. This is ridiculous. I was enforcing HOA rules. That child was unsupervised. That child has a severe heart condition, Sarah said, her voice ice. You chained her in 95 degrees heat. She nearly died. I didn't know about any heart condition. That's not my responsibility. The child was wearing a portable heart monitor. You saw it. Multiple witnesses confirmed you saw it. Diane's face had gone pale. I want my lawyer. Of course you have that right. Sarah had leaned in close. But here's what you need to understand. That little girl you chained up, her father is Police Chief Robert Martinez. The man whose career is built on getting justice for victims. You just made his daughter your victim. There's nowhere you can hide. The lawyer Diane called was Richard Morrison. Expensive, connected, specialized in getting guilty people off. Within 2 hours, he was on TV. My client was simply enforcing community standards. She had no way of knowing the child had a medical condition. This is a tragic misunderstanding being blown out of proportion because of who the child's father is. Misunderstanding. He called chaining a child to a porch a misunderstanding. The media picked it up. Police chief's daughter restrained by HOA president. It went viral. People were outraged. Other families came forward with stories of Diane's cruelty. She called animal control on my autistic son because he was making noise in our backyard. One mother testified, she had my elderly mother's car towed because it was parked incorrectly. Mom was having a stroke and we were calling 911. Another neighbor revealed, she threatened to find us every day until we got rid of our daughter's wheelchair ramp because it was unsightly. A third family shared Diane Harrison had been terrorizing our neighborhood for years, targeting the vulnerable, disabled children, elderly residents, anyone she saw as weak. Emma had just been her latest victim, but this time she'd gone too far. For 5 days, Emma fought for her life in the ICU, her little body hooked to machines, her weak heart struggling to beat. Jessica and I took turns at her bedside, holding her hand, reading to her, begging her to wake up. On day 3, her eyes fluttered open. Daddy. Her voice was so weak, so small. I'm here, princess. Daddy's here. Did I do something wrong? Tears rolled down her face. The lady said I was bad. Said, I broke rules. My heart shattered. No, baby. You didn't do anything wrong. Nothing at all. That lady was wrong. She's the one who was bad. My chest hurts. Daddy, it hurts so much. I know, sweetheart. But the doctors are helping you. You're going to get better. But even as I said it, I saw Dr. Patel's face. Saw the truth. After Emma fell back asleep, Dr. Patel pulled us aside. The damage to Emma's heart is severe. More severe than I initially thought. She's going to need a transplant and soon without it. He didn't need to finish. How long? Jessica whispered. Months maybe. We'll do everything we can to keep her stable while we search for a donor heart. But her condition is fragile now. Any stress, any exertion could cause another failure. My daughter was dying. Slowly but surely, Diane Harrison's cruelty was killing her. While Emma lay in the ICU, District Attorney Torres built the case that would bury Diane Harrison. The evidence was overwhelming. Security footage from Mrs. Chen's Ring camera showed everything. Diane approaching Emma. The argument. Diane pulling out the chain. She'd brought it from home premeditated, wrapping it around Emma's waist, padlocking it, walking away while Emma cried and begged. The audio caught Diane's words. Spoiled children and their fake illnesses. This will teach your parents. She'd known Emma was sick, had seen the heart monitor, had heard Emma explain, and had called it fake. Medical experts testified about the danger of heat stress on heart patients. For a child with Emma's condition, being chained in 95 degrees heat is potentially fatal. The person who did this was condemning her to death. Neighbors testified about Diane's pattern of targeting vulnerable people, her cruelty, her abuse of HOA power. She told me my son's wheelchair was violating aesthetic standards. One father testified, said if we didn't remove it, she'd find us into foreclosure. She called my mother's oxygen tank an eyesore and demanded she keep it inside. Another neighbor said Mom needed it to breathe and Diane didn't care. The chain itself was evidence. Diane had purchased it 3 days before the attack. Home Depot receipt in her name, premeditated. Her phone records showed Google searches, HOA authority to restrain children, and legal ways to punish rule violations. And the most damning evidence, a text message to her daughter, finally going to teach those Martinez people a lesson. Their sick kid thinks she's special. She'd known Emma was sick, had targeted her specifically, had chained a dying child to a porch in deadly heat as punishment. That was attempted murder. The trial began 2 months after the attack. Emma was home but weak on the transplant list. Her little body deteriorating while we waited for a donor heart. She was too fragile to attend court. But her presence was felt in every moment. The courtroom was packed. Media from around the country, child advocacy groups, disability rights organizations, families who'd been victimized by HOA abuse. Diane sat at the defense table looking indignant like she was the victim. Deorez delivered a devastating opening statement. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Diane Harrison chained an 8-year-old heart patient to a porch in 95-degree heat and walked away. She knew the child was sick. She saw the heart monitor. She heard Emma's pleas and she didn't care. He pulled up a photo of Emma before the attack, smiling, holding her favorite stuffed animal, her heart monitor visible on her chest. This is Emma Martinez, 8 years old, born with a severe heart defect, 3 open heart surgeries, a pacemaker so fragile that even mild stress can trigger cardiac failure. Next photo, Emma in the ICU, tubes and wires everywhere, fighting for her life. This is Emma Martinez 2 hours after Diane Harrison chained her outside in cardiac failure on life support. Dying. Gasps echoed through the courtroom. Several jurors had tears in their eyes. The defense will claim this was about HOA enforcement, about rules, about supervision. But you'll see the evidence. You'll hear the witnesses. You'll understand that this was about cruelty, about power, about a woman who saw a vulnerable child and chose to torture her. Richard Morrison's defense was predictable, try to make Diane the victim. My client is a dedicated HOA president. She maintains order in the community. On that morning, she found a child unsupervised on a porch. She attempted to secure the situation until the parents could be notified by chaining her. Torres interrupted by restraining a heart patient in deadly heat. My client didn't know the severity of the medical condition. The child was wearing a heart monitor. She told your client about her condition. Multiple witnesses confirmed it. The evidence destroyed Morrison's defense. The Ring camera footage played for the jury. Diane approaching Emma. Emma explaining about her heart showing the monitor. Diane sneering, calling it fake. Diane wrapping the chain around Emma's small body. Emma crying, begging to be let go. Diane walking away, checking her watch, unbothered. The medical testimony. Emma's heart couldn't handle the stress. The heat, the restraint, the terror. It triggered complete cardiac failure. She nearly died. Mrs. Chin testified, I heard Emma screaming for help. I tried to get to her, but I'm old. I couldn't break the chain. I called 911, but Diane had already condemned that child to death. The Home Depot receipt. Diane bought that chain 3 days before. She planned this. The text message. Their sick kid thinks she's special. She knew Emma was sick. She targeted her because of it. Jessica testified, and I had to leave the courtroom because watching her break down was too much. Emma was just reading. Jessica sobbed. Just sitting in the shade with her book. She wasn't hurting anyone. She wasn't breaking any rules. She was just being a kid trying to have 30 minutes of sunshine. And Diane Harrison decided that was worth torturing her for. Dr. Patel testified about the permanent damage. Emma needs a heart transplant now. Without Diane Harrison's attack, she might have had years before needing one. But the stress caused irreversible damage. Emma's life expectancy has been drastically shortened. The jury looked horrified. In my victim impact statement, I was allowed to give one as Emma's father. I spoke directly to Diane. You saw my daughter's heart monitor. You knew she was sick. You heard her explain her condition. And you chained her to a porch in deadly heat. Anyway, I held up a photo of Emma's transplant scar, the one she get when a donor heart became available, if one became available in time. Emma is dying slowly, painfully dying because you decided your HOA power was more important than a child's life because you saw vulnerability and chose to exploit it. Because you're a monster who tortures sick children. My voice hardened. You can't hide behind HOA rules. Can't claim ignorance. Can't pretend this was anything but deliberate cruelty. The evidence shows who you are. A child abuser, a torturer, a monster. Torres's closing was ruthless. Diane Harrison had choices when she saw Emma on that porch. She could have spoken to the parents, could have knocked on the door, could have showed basic human decency. Instead, she chose to chain a dying child in deadly heat. She chose torture. She chose attempted murder. He pulled up the text message one final time. Their sick kid thinks she's special. Emma Martinez is special. She's a brave little girl who's fought her entire life against a broken heart, who survived 3 open heart surgeries, who smiles through pain that would break most adults. She is special. Torres's voice was steel, and Diane Harrison tried to kill her. Find her guilty. Give Emma justice. Show that no amount of HOA power can justify torturing a child. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on every count. Attempted murder. Aggravated assault on a child. Child endangerment. Unlawful restraint. Civil rights violations. Diane's face went white. For the first time, she seemed to realize the magnitude of what she'd done. Richard Morrison started talking about appeals, but it was over. Diane Harrison was a convicted child abuser. The sentencing hearing was 4 months after the attack. Emma was weaker now, still waiting for a donor heart, her little body failing more each day. We brought her to court in a wheelchair. She was pale, thin, but insisted on being there. I want the mean lady to see me, Emma had said. I want her to see what she did. Judge Patricia Williams looked at Diane with absolute contempt. Mrs. Harrison, you chained an 8-year-old heart patient to a porch in deadly heat. You knew she was sick. You knew the danger. You chose cruelty over compassion. You chose power over humanity. Morrison stood. Your Honor, my client has no prior record. Your client tortured a dying child. Judge Williams cut him off. She deliberately endangered a medically fragile little girl. Emma Martinez is on a transplant list because of your client's actions. She turned to Diane. You claim you were enforcing rules, but there is no rule, no regulation, no authority that gives anyone the right to chain a child, to leave her to die in the heat, to torture her. Judge Williams's voice was ice. Diane Harrison, I hereby sentence you to life in prison for attempted murder. This is a child predator sentence. You deliberately targeted a vulnerable child. You will never walk free again. Diane gasped. Life? That's excessive. You were just torturing a child. Judge Williams said, You're dismissed. As they led Diane away, she looked at Emma, my brave daughter, sitting in her wheelchair, oxygen tube in her nose, too weak to even stand.
I'm sorry, Diane whispered.
And for the first time, she seemed to mean it. But Emma just looked at her with eyes far too old for an 8-year-old and said, You hurt me because I was sick. You're a bad person. Then Emma turned to me. Can we go home? Daddy? I'm tired. Yes, princess. Let's go home. Emma's transplant came 8 months after the trial. A heart from a teenage donor. Perfect match. The surgery was terrifying. 16 hours. So many complications, but Emma fought through it. Now, 1 year later, she was running in our backyard. Actually running. Her new heart strong and healthy. Her cheeks pink. Her smile bright. "Look, Daddy, I can run," she called out, giggling as she chased our dog. Jessica stood beside me, tears of joy streaming down her face. "She's going to be okay. Our baby is going to be okay. She's more than okay. She's thriving." We'd moved from Sunset Hills. Bought a house with no HOA, no rules, no Diane Harrison. Diane was in prison where she belonged. The HOA had been dissolved. Laws had been changed. Emma's law made it a federal crime to endanger disabled children. And Emma was alive, healthy, happy. "Mommy, Daddy, come play," Emma called, holding a soccer ball. We ran to her and she kicked the ball, something she'd never had the strength to do before. Her new heart was strong. Her spirit was unbreakable. And our family had survived. Diane Harrison had tried to kill my daughter, had chained her, tortured her, left her to die. But Emma had won, had fought back from the edge of death, and emerged stronger. As I watched my daughter play, really play like other kids, I knew that this was justice. Not just Diane's life sentence, but Emma's life, her joy, her future. Diane Harrison was rotting in prison, and Emma Martinez was running, laughing, living. That was our victory.